showing you how to resolve a 5/7 chord to a 1 chord. Now, basically this is all to do with harmony, so if you don't have a solid foundation of what I'm showing you, you're probably going to get a little bit confused because there's a lot of information here. Now this is just an introduction, and if you like this sort of stuff, then I'd suggest that you go to a college or pick up a book on how to do harmony. Okay? The stuff I'm showing you would be in the first level of harmony. And it's pretty basic stuff. It's nothing too complex. But the thing about harmony is that it's hard to grasp when you're first doing it, and then like the second and third level or whatever of harmony, they get much easier because it's not so much of a big jump right into it. Anyway, so this could be a little bit confusing, but I'm going to try to make it as straightforward as possible. Okay? So let's get going. So the first thing we're going to look at is this little thing I've drawn out here. Now, I didn't get this from a book or anything, so there could be, for you theory buffs out there, there might be an error or two possibly. Although I looked it over and everything looks to be in order so far. Now, I picked some of these chord progressions so that it would highlight a couple things I wanted to show. Now, the first thing is, if you're wondering why some of the stems are going up and why they're going down, this is actually written in a harmony writing style called Correll Style. Now, the reason that it's written in Correll Style is because it shows you by the stems all the different voices. Now, most harmony music is written for 4 parts, like in choir and whatnot. That would be soprano, alto, tenor, and then bass. So right here we have our soprano line. This is what the soprano would sing. This is what the alto would sing. This is what the tenor would sing, and then the bass, or baritone, whatever you want to call it. Now, short for this is soprano, alto, so it's SATB. Okay, so that's one of the short forms for it. Now, how this differs from keyboard style, there's 2 different styles. There's Correll style, and this has the stems going up and down. And this shows you where all the voices are. And keyboard style is more to do with plunking down. Now, the reason we're doing it in Correll style is because that's what the bulk of harmony is written in, is because you can see all the voices. And the voice, basically checking your voices is a very big part of harmony, is because there's a whole bunch of rules to harmony. Now, you'd think that, music is creative and we could just do whatever we want to. Wouldn't that be awesome? That's what I was thinking when I first got into harmony. I'm like, yeah, sweet! I'll get to just make up my own songs. But no. They had to kill all my dreams with 10,000 rules. So I'm going to try to show you guys what I learned in a matter of maybe 4 months, doing an intensive study in 20 minutes. So here we go. So Correll Style shows you the voices. Now, the first thing I want to point out is the most important thing in doing your chords is called voice leading. Now, the best voice leading, so a voice leading your voice would be from this note to this note, or that note to that note. That's leading your voices. Okay? Now, good voice leading versus bad voice leading, there's a couple different rules, but they all boil down to one thing. Smoothness. So smoothness is important. And a smooth transition will sound basically good. And how you get those is, it's pretty obvious that it's going to sound good, right? How you get those basically is you try to get the notes as close as possible. All the notes in these 3 upper voices generally should be as close to as possible, so there's very little movement. That'll give you nice smooth voice leading. Now the bass can jump around a little bit, or it can do whatever. Now, here is the rule for smooth voice leading. You have usually 4 notes, and you'll have your 1 chord or whatever, and you'll have the C, the E, and the G, and then you'll usually double the root for the 1 chord. Now, how you do this, how you do the voice leading is this sort of rule. From 1 chord to the next chord, what you want to do is you want to have all the notes going not in one direction. You don't want all four going down or all four going up, right? And you couldn't have all four stay the same if they were changing the chords, because then it would be the same chord, unless you're holding the chord, but then there's really no point for voice leading. That becomes obsolete. Anyway, the point is we want to have a mixture of some chords going up. See how this one is going up, this one's going down, this one's going down, and that one's going down. Now what happens is it creates a more smooth flow. So that's one of the rules. Not all voices should ever move in the same direction. They should never go all up or all down. Okay? So how's the best way to do this? Now this becomes very tricky because it's like you only have a certain number of notes and they have to fit in a pattern. So this is sort of like doing a very, very complicated jigsaw puzzle with a whole bunch of rules that you can't put this piece here or this piece there. And it can literally be mind-boggling sometimes. So it takes practice. When you first start, you're going to be very slow, and if you're pretty fast, you're like a genius. It took me, when I first started, something like this would have taken me about an hour to write out properly. Now before I started this, it took me about 5-10 minutes to do this up. And I'm a little bit out of practice. When I was in practice, I probably could have done it in about a minute. I would have just been because you basically learn all the rules. Now there's probably about 1,000 rules, no joke. So I'm just gonna get to the real big meaty ones, and I'll let you guys, if you guys are interested, you can keep researching this independently because there's so much information that I don't think I could cover the whole topic properly. Plus I'm not a harmony expert per se. Like I know it, but I'm not like, you know, really well studied in the area. Okay, anyway. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to have, my voice is going. We want to have all the voices going up with at least one going down or whatever. Now there's another one we have where it stays the same, and that's called a common tone. So common tone, right here, look at this. I've got a C going to a C, and they're changing chords. So what that does is it holds it all together. So if you have one common tone, you can actually have all of them going up or down. So you can do that too. Now the best way to have this thing working, to have, you know, some of them going up and some of them going down, is to pit the soprano versus the bass and put them in contrary motion. So as you notice here, my soprano line is going da 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 da. It's all going down as my bass is going up. So we've got a very cool effect here where it's going in contrary motion. If you notice here, it leaps up a fourth, and from here it goes down a whole octave. Or sorry, that's a seventh. Okay, so that's something to look at, is putting the soprano and the bass line with your in contrary motion, and then filling things in like this in the middle, and you know, drawing out a common tone or whatever. Now how do I get the notes for each one of these chords? Well, the 6 signifies that it's in an inversion. Now what happens, so what is the one chord of C? That's just C, E, G. So it's just C, E, and then G. Now the 7, so think of what's the 7th note in C major? That's B. So I write B at the bottom. What's a third above that? That's D. A third above that, F. So that's what the notes that I need. Now, with the 7 chord, it's a little bit special because it's whatever, it's a special chord, and we're always going to be doubling the D. Now, normally in main chords, you're going to double the bottom note, so it's C, C, E, G. Now, here we've got the same thing, but since it's in an inversion, well, I didn't write this in the inversion that it's actually in, because D is on the bottom and then B is up here. But anyway, with these inversions, these notes up here don't matter. All that matters is what the bass note is. That determines the inversion. So you look at the bass note and that'll tell you what inversion it's in. So since this is an E and we have a C and a G and a C, those are all the same notes as 1, but it's with an E at the bottom, so that means it's a first inversion of the 1 chord. So how's your brain doing so far? I wasn't sure if I wanted to tackle this subject because I wasn't sure if I'd be able to present it clearly in a simple manner, but I'm going to do my best. Okay, I'm going to make the attempt. So if I'm going to make the attempt, I expect you guys to make the attempt to at least try to understand it. Okay? Okay, so now what's happening here? So we basically need these notes, and what these notes are called, so we have a C, E, G, those are called chord tones. So chord tones are the tones that you need to have for that chord, okay? It's like, those are the only notes that have clearance, if this was like a security building. We only are allowing C's and G's, and then in this one we're only allowing D's, F's, and B's, and then here it's the same thing. So they have chord tones, and that's what you have to play with. Those are like your puzzle pieces. And then they can only fit in a certain way by adhering to the rules and constraints that are applied with all this stuff. It's sort of like, harmony can be so frustrating at times. I've actually tried to rip my hair out. It's sort of like someone's like, okay, let's dance to this beautiful music. So you try to dance, and then like, wait, hold on a second, we just got to wrap you in a full body cast and stifle all your creativity. Go. So then you're like, yeah, this dancing's fun. So yeah, this is what harmony starts out with. It's a whole bunch of rules. And the funny thing is, it starts with so many rules, and then as you go along and get higher and higher, they take away all these rules, and you have less and less constraints until you don't have any rules anymore. Do you find that funny? Yeah, I think that's funny too, but anyway, okay. So basically what I'm trying to do is I'm not allowed to have any of the same, I can't have all the notes going up or down, okay? Now, the next thing is, it's called overlap. So in other words, I couldn't have this G, like all of a sudden jump past another note in another voice. So look, this line is here, this one is here. Now overlap would be if I took this line and this line and then I crossed them. So my tenor line is above. Like say I moved this F up to this F up here. Okay? That would be overlap. Okay? So overlap is, it looks like, oh, who would do overlap? But there's times when you're just so into it that you just do overlap. Okay? So yeah. Or you only have one note that you can go to and you're like, oh, and then you end up getting forced into overlap, and then, but there is always a way to get out of it once you memorize the things. Anyway, this is a good little thing to remember here, because it's 1, and then 7, 7, 6. Now that little O there is a diminished, so it's a 7 diminished 6, and then 1, 6. This is a good little pattern, because what you do is you go up these 3 steps, and then down these 3 steps, and then you just do a little dun 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 and dun 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 with both in the middle, and it sounds really cool. I'm going to play this for you all after anyway too. I'll have to kind of turn my neck back and play like this, but I'll do my best. Okay, so hopefully everyone's following me. Okay, so that's overlap. Now the next thing is parallel fifths and parallel octaves. Now you're not allowed, for some reason, to have like an octave leap here and then an octave leap here. You can't have 2 octaves in a row, or you can't have 2 fifths in a row. So you can't do a fifth and then a fifth apart in the same voice. So it can get sort of tricky because you have to be watching, even though those notes would be inconvenient, you have to switch it up so it's not the same thing, which is very annoying. Anyway, okay, so that is the parallels. So you can't have basically an octave and then an octave and then an octave, or like an octave and a fifth and a fifth and then an octave. Those 2 fifths would be parallels. Okay. Now that could be like say you have from D and A, right? You have D and A here, and then you go to E and C. Whoops, what did I say? D to A and then E to B. So even though they're different notes, because this is a fifth and this is a fifth, that is parallel. So in other words, you can't go octaves up or octaves down. That was not allowed. So yeah. Okay. I know. You're probably thinking, wow, there's a lot of rules here and they're not making sense, and what am I doing here? Yeah. Anyway. Okay. I'm just trying to give you a crash course on this. Very crash. In fact, I don't think, like, all my piano lessons combined, I could still be talking about harmony. If like I could seriously just go on and on and on and on about it. And personally, I really would not want to do that. Because it's not really something I really enjoy talking about, but I want to do just one lesson on this. Maybe a second one. Okay, so the next thing is, we can't have leaps that are more than an octave. Okay? Usually you don't want to do that. Now another thing is the distance between the voices. We don't want it any more than a tenth in the bass. So from the bass to the tenor, we cannot have more than a tenth. So I actually have the exact most you can possibly have. That's actually why I wrote that in there, is just to bring that point out. That this is the most you can have distance-wise between the bass and the tenor there. Now, between like the tenor and the alto, or the alto and the soprano, you can only have an octave space. Anything more than that is too far. So does it feel like your creativity is just shrinking away? Well, it's funny, because once you actually learn how to do this, it's sort of fun in a way. It's almost like doing math or puzzles. You just kind of go, and you can just go along. And it helps you with actual stuff, like once you get better at it. But learning all the rules is just crazy. These are basically rules that they've created so that your music will sound good. Okay? And then it's up, they don't want you to be an innovator, basically. Just follow the rules, and then your music will sound good. Anyway, but there's really nothing left to do that much as far as innovation goes with music. It's pretty much all been done before, so. Anyway, okay, so, sorry if that's a depressing outlook on this whole music situation. Okay, so we've got our 5 chord here. Now, what I've done is I've gone to a 5-4-3, which is actually a 7 chord. That's just a different inversion of it. So basically my notes are G, B, D, and then for the 7 chord I have to add the 7th, which is the F. Okay? Now why it's called the 7th is that's the interval, because from G to an F is a 7th, right? Now G to B, that's a 3rd, G to D, that's a 5th. So the first one is called the root, then the 3rd, then the 5th, and then the 7th. And that's what we refer to them in the chord. So it's called a 5 with a 7 to show that there's a 7th in there. And then it goes 6-5 for the next inversion, and that has to do with the intervals between it, and then 4-3 is the next inversion. I taught that on an earlier lesson. Now, here's just one of the examples of the ways that you are expected to resolve a 5-7 chord to a 1 chord, so a perfect cadence. So, the root of the chord can either do these things. It can go down, it can be in common, or it can go up. So the root can pretty much go anywhere. So in this circumstance, I've chosen to go up here and then down. Okay, now why I've done that is because I'm going down with all these chords, so by going up I'm creating the contrary, which I need, because this has to go up if these are going down. Now, here, we're going, so the root is fine here. Now, the 3rd of the chord, so what's the 3rd of the chord? Well, G is the root, so B would be the 3rd. So I have to find B somewhere. Okay, so B is right here. I have it up at the top. So, this B, the 3rd, needs to rise. Why? Because B in C major is called the leading tone. And the leading tone in a 5-7 chord must always go to the tonic, upwards, like this. Like that. It has to go up to the tonic. So that's B right there. So as you see, I've written it so it's going to go up to the tonic, which is C right there. Okay, so the 3rd is resolved. So you always have to be, okay, is the 3rd going up to the tonic or the root of the other chord? Okay, now the 5th needs to basically fall. Now, where would the D fall to? So we've already, the C is done, and the other C is done. So we have a G and an E to fall to. So the D, so I guess we're at the D right now. So the D is going to fall to, where did I write that in? Oh, yeah, the D is falling to the C. Whoops. So I've already covered that one. Okay, I've covered the B and the D, sorry. Okay, I'm actually at the G. So the G, what I've done with that is I've put it in common right here. So that's what I've done here. I've created a common tone with the G going to the G. Now, the last one, the 7th. This one always, always, always has to fall to the 3rd of the tonic. So whatever your tonic chord, so C is the tonic, right? So that's 1, that's the 1 chord. Now what's the 3rd of that? That would be, what's the 3rd up from C? E. So that means my 7th, the 7th note in my 5 chord has to fall to the 3rd note in the tonic chord. It's so funny. I remember my theory teacher saying that her son was listening to her talking about all this. She's just like, okay, you got to drop the 7 and make it rise to the 8th, and the tonic has to do this, and the 4, 5, 7 with the diminished, blah blah blah, and carry that over and do this. And he said that it sounded like she's doing drug deals. Just the way she's talking. It sounds like she's directing all these like things happening all over the place. It's just hilarious. But yeah, she was awesome. Donna was good. She could actually do my theory homework faster upside down than I could do it right side up. Like she'd be sitting there looking at mine upside down and she would fill it out for me upside down. And I was just like, oh, I'm sad. She's so fast at it. Anyway, but yeah, she's been doing it for many years, I believe. Okay. So now we're at the 7th, and it always has to fall to the 3rd of the other chord, of the 1 chord. So whatever the 3rd of the chord is, so that would be the E here, so the F falls to the E. So dun dun, and there we go. We have everything all set up. So this is the little chart here. So the root can either go common tone, raised, whatever. The 3rd is always going to be the leading tone of that key. So the 3rd has to rise up to the tonic. Then the D falls to the 5th falls, and the F falls to the 3rd always. Okay. So now let's see how well I can play this backwards, looking at the thing. So let's try that. Okay, here we go. Let's see how well I can play this. It's hard to see that. Okay, so. Now, wasn't that pretty? So yeah, that is harmony voice leading. Now I'm going to do a little chart up for to show you what notes you would want to double for each chord. Alright, so here's what chords you want to be doubling. In the what note you want to double, because you need 4 notes and there's 3 in a triad, so there's 1 note that you must double. So in primary chords, such as the 1 chord, the 4 chord, or the 5 chord, you want to double the root. So in C major, the root would be C for the 1 chord, F for the 4 chord, and G for the 5 chord. So you'd want G, G, B, D, or C, C, E, D, E, G. Now in the secondary chords, the 2 chord, the 3 chord, and the 6 chord, you want to double the 3rd or the root, depending on what circumstance you're in, okay? So whatever is going to give you better and smoother voice leading, so as little movement as possible, okay? Now, the next one is the last chord here, the 7 chord, or the 7 diminished, because it's actually a diminished chord. That's B, in C major, that would be B, D, and F, okay? So that doesn't actually make up a minor or a major chord, because there's no chord that is like that. Anyway, in all circumstances, you must double the 3rd all the time, okay? So those are the ones you're going to be wanting to do. Whoa, why did I start doing that? Okay, anyway. So that's a crash course in harmony there. So what you can do is, if you're interested in all this stuff, you can go down and grab a harmony book at your local music store, or look online for harmony courses. Then you can get sheet music. You can try writing out your chords and try doing voice leading and test it on the piano and see how it sounds and follow those rules that I showed you. And I would really recommend getting a book to go through because that will be a surefire way to know that you're doing it the right way. Okay, and yeah, hopefully you guys found that helpful and not too confusing. That was a tough lesson, probably going to be one of the toughest I've ever done. So yeah, anyway, take care guys.